Dragon Ball GT is known for having some incredible ideas but very poor execution. I'm sure this is something that you've heard many times. My name is Thunderbolt, and as someone who loves great stories and as an aspiring writer, I've always wondered something. If I had the chance to remake Dragon Ball GT, how would I do it? So instead of wondering forever, I decided to give it a shot. I'm not here to completely rewrite GT from scratch. Instead, I want to keep the best ideas and the core concepts that the creators originally had while fixing the execution. That way, the story still respects the direction that Toei Animation wanted to take, but it also becomes a worthy sequel to Dragon Ball Z. Leave a like, subscribe, and let's get right into it. Of course, we start with the Black Star Dragon Ball Saga. In my opinion, this is the worst arc in all of Dragon Ball. Yes, even worse than anything from Super Dragon Ball Heroes, which honestly isn't that bad in comparison. The main idea behind this arc was actually pretty interesting. The creators wanted to recapture the charm of OG Dragon Ball, right? The idea was simple. Kid Goku goes on a Dragon Ball hunting adventure with people close to him, travels to different places, meets strange characters, and occasionally stops bad guys along the way. On paper, that sounds like a perfect way to bring the series back to its roots. But the problem is that this approach simply did not work, because the biggest difference between OG Dragon Ball and GT's first arc is Goku himself. In the original series, Goku had grown up completely isolated in the wilderness. He knew nothing about the world out there, just like the audience. So as Goku explored the world, we explored it with him. We learned about different species, martial arts, strange cultures, and powerful fighters all through Goku's perspective. That sense of discovery made the adventure fascinating. But in GT, that element doesn't quite hit the mark. Even though the story now expands into the entire universe, there really isn't much left for us or Goku to discover. Dragon Ball Z had already done a huge amount of universe building. We had already explored Namek, learned about Frieza and the Saiyans, as well as aliens like the Yardratians. We also discovered the Kais and learned about the 4 realms of the Dragon Ball universe. All the important events and elements that make up the story as well as the structure of the Dragon Ball universe had already been shown to us. And because of that, when GT sends Goku from planet to planet, it doesn't feel like exploration anymore, it just feels like random locations with random gimmicks. Almost none of them seem to have an impact on the universe and its story as a whole. And to make things worse, the arc constantly tries to push in comedic moments to appeal to kids, but there are so many forced jokes that eventually they just stop being funny. Now, to be fair, OG Dragon Ball also had a lot of weird and goofy humor, but the difference is that OG Dragon Ball never lost sight of the core of Dragon Ball, that being martial arts, the growth of Goku, which was a direct result of his exploration of the world, and the Dragon Balls themselves. GT unfortunately diverts away from that. Another big problem was the target audience. The creators clearly wanted to make GT appeal to younger viewers, but they seemed to forget something really important. The adults watching GT were kids when they started watching Dragon Ball Z, which means that Z itself was already appealing to a young audience. GT, however, tries to target an audience that feels far younger, which clashes badly with the tone of the franchise, especially when the main character has already completed his character development. By the end of Z, heck, one might even say by the end of the Cell Saga, Goku was a completely fleshed out character. And then there's the plot of the arc itself, which honestly becomes a confusing mess. Let's look at the villain chain. The Para brothers serve Cardinal Muchi Muchi, who serves Doltaki, who controls the god Lud, who turned out to be a robot created by Dr. Mew, who was also Doltaki's master, and Mew supposedly orchestrated this entire plan to collect the Dragon Balls and turn all life into machine mutants so he could control them. And later we learn that Mew was also trying to complete Baby. And then the story reveals that Baby was the one who created Dr. Mew and the machine mutants in the first place, which doesn't make sense, and at that point the entire plot just becomes confusing as hell. Nothing really feels connected, none of the villains feel like they are part of a clear plan, and at no point does the audience think, wow, Baby really orchestrated all of this. Instead, it just feels like a bunch of disconnected ideas stitched together, which is unfortunate because the concepts themselves are actually really good. So, now the question becomes, how do we fix this arc while keeping the great ideas intact? Let's start rebuilding the Black Star Dragon Ball saga from the ground up. I think the first thing GT should have done is start with a flashback. We go all the way back to the moment when the nameless Namekian first created the Dragon Balls. In this scene, we see him using his Dragon Clan magic to create a completely new set of Dragon Balls. But when they appear, the audience immediately notices something strange. They have black stars inside them. The Nameless Namekian proudly presents these mystical orbs to the previous Guardian of Earth. His goal is simple. He wants to impress the Guardian and prove that he is worthy of becoming the next God of Earth. He explains that these Dragon Balls can grant any wishes, even the most powerful of wishes, without any restrictions, and that they could help keep the people of Earth safe and happy. He promises that as God, he will personally ensure that no one will ever misuse them. To him, this is proof that he deserves to be the Guardian. But the current Guardian senses something disturbing. Surrounding the Dragon Balls is an enormous amount of negative energy. These artifacts are far more dangerous than how they are being presented, which is why the wise Guardian refuses. Not only does he reject the Dragon Balls, he banishes the Nameless Namekian from the lookout, telling him that he isn't worthy of being his successor. The Nameless Namekian, overwhelmed by anger and the darkness inside his heart, realizes something terrible about himself. He is not a pure being. He had noticed that the balls had black stars in them but hadn't thought much of it. He didn't know anything about his Namekian origins after all. So, in desperation, he does something extreme. He splits himself in two. One half containing the good within him and the other containing all of his evil. At that exact moment, the Black Star Dragon Balls lose their power and turn to stone. The good half becomes Kami, who is eventually accepted as the successor to the Guardian of Earth, while the evil half becomes Piccolo, who falls down to Earth and begins planning his conquest of the world. The stone Black Star Dragon Balls are then hidden deep within the lookout, never meant to be discovered again. And then we jump forward in time, all the way to the Cell Saga. When Piccolo and Kami finally fuse back together to face the android threat, something unexpected happens. Hidden deep within the lookout, the stone Dragon Balls begin to hum with energy. The moment the Nameless Namekian becomes whole again, the Black Star Dragon Balls reactivate. Piccolo and Kami, now being one again, sense this immediately, and after discussing it, they come to a very serious decision. These Dragon Balls are far too dangerous. Their existence must never be revealed. They must remain hidden forever. After this, the story shifts to a quiet moment shortly before the battle with Cell. Piccolo and Dende are alone at the lookout, and here Piccolo finally tells Dende about the Black Star Dragon Balls. Finally, we move to post-Boo Saga. Dende and Piccolo secretly find the Black Star Dragon Balls after they had fallen down onto Earth due to the destruction of the lookout in the battle between Gotenks and Super Boo. They put them back in the chamber they were kept in and once again remind themselves of the promise they made. These changes serve two purposes. First, it naturally connects GT to both OG Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. But second, it quietly plants the seed that these Black Star Dragon Balls still exist, waiting for the moment they will be rediscovered. And then we finally cut to present day. 5 years after Goku left with Oob to train him, just like the beginning of GT, we see Goku and Oob sparring at the lookout. But this time, we show just how far Oob has come. Goku is fighting him at full power in Super Saiyan 3. This is the final test of Oob's training. Their battle is intense. The lookout shakes under the pressure of their power. Cracks form across the floor and walls as their fight escalates. Eventually, the damage spreads to a forgotten chamber deep within the lookout. The chamber where the Black Star Dragon Balls have been hidden for decades. The structure finally gives way and the Dragon Balls fall from the lookout all the way down to Earth. After the battle ends, Goku congratulates Oob on completing his training, but suddenly, Dende senses that something is terribly wrong. He rushes over and sees the destroyed chamber. The Black Star Dragon Balls are gone, fallen down to Earth, and to his absolute horror, they have landed right on top of the Pilaf gang. This moment plays out with a bit of classic Dragon Ball humor. Pilaf looks up, sees the Dragon Balls lying in front of him, and begins celebrating like the universe has finally decided to repay him for decades of bad luck. He thanks Karma for finally being on his side. Dende quickly rushes over to Goku and tells him that Pilaf is about to make a wish on the Dragon Balls and that he should stop it or everyone will be in grave danger. Without wasting a second, Pilaf gathers the Dragon Balls and summons the dragon, Ultimate Shenron. Pilaf remarks that he didn't remember the dragon being red, but it doesn't really bother him. But just as the dragon appears, Goku instantly teleports in using instant transmission. Pilaf sees him and immediately loses his mind. After all these years, his plans are once again being ruined by Goku. In his frustration and panic, Pilaf, just like in the original GT, accidentally wishes Goku back into a child. These changes not only help showcase the full extent of Oob's strength, but also prevents people from wondering how the hell Pilaf even knew about the Black Star Dragon Balls. In my remake, he never had any idea of what they were. From this point onwards, a lot of the story can actually stay the same as it was in GT, at least structurally. Dende and Piccolo tell Goku how the Black Star Dragon Balls, after granting a wish, are scattered all across the universe and that they should be brought back within a year, otherwise the Earth will get destroyed by the negative energy, and Goku, Pan and Trunks head off into space to collect them before that happens. And I want to make sure that all the planets that they visit still remain the same. The key difference in my remake is how these planets connect to the main plot. In GT, the first planet they visit is planet Imecha, which happens completely by accident because their ship malfunctions. And strangely, they spend 3 full episodes there, even though that planet has absolutely nothing to do with the Black Star Dragon Balls. That is not a good decision for the very first planet they're gonna visit. So, in my version, we fix that immediately. Instead of crashing there, the trio arrive to Imecha because the Dragon Radar tells them that one of the Black Star Dragon Balls is located there. This alone instantly makes the story feel more focused. In the first episode on Imecha, the trio begins searching for the Dragon Ball, but as they explore the planet, they quickly notice something strange. Everyone on this world is trying to sell them something. On top of that, they are being charged for literally everything, even the most absurd things. This can be done in a slightly comedic fashion, just like the original, but in the original it dragged on for a little too long, which I wouldn't want in the remake. Anyway, the trio soon discover why the citizens of Imecha were so extra money-minded. Turns out the planet is being ruled by a tyrannical king named Don Key, who is forcefully taking all the money earned by the people of this world via taxes, which leaves them poor and desperate. Eventually, the trio finds the Dragon Ball, but just as they are about to take it, they are suddenly intercepted by the king's guards. And strangely enough, the guards were also searching for the Dragon Ball. A fight breaks out, but the trio defeats them fairly easily and manages to take the ball for themselves. However, word of this spreads quickly and eventually reaches the king himself. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Don Key sends his strongest warrior after them, Legic. The second episode on Imecha would become more action-focused. As Goku, Pan and Trunks attempt to return to their ship, they are being chased by Legic and the entire Imechian army. What follows is a fast-paced chase and battle across the planet. Legic proves to be far stronger than the guards they faced earlier, and he pushes Goku into a real fight. Eventually, Goku defeats him as his Super Saiyan form is just strong enough to beat him. He remarks how he's surprised that Legic is much stronger than even Frieza back when they fought on Namek. Legic understands that Goku was the one who defeated Frieza, and instead of ending things with hostility, Legic develops a deep respect for Goku's strength. He tells Goku that after the demise of Frieza, he trained hard to reach this level as he did not want his planet to suffer under a rule like that again. Pan questions him on how he can say that and follow someone like Don Key at the same time. And Legic tells her that it's complicated and that while Don Key's actions seem tyrannical, his intentions are honorable. Pan doesn't believe him and demands an explanation, but Goku tells her not to pry any further. He understands that the look in Legic's eyes is not that of a liar. He then, in classic Dragon Ball fashion, tells Legic to get stronger so that they can fight again someday. After the trio leaves the planet, we cut to something new. Don Key receives a video call from someone far more intimidating, General Rildo. Rildo asks him if they've recovered the Dragon Ball, and terrified, Don Key explains what happened. Rildo then reminds him of something important. After the fall of Frieza, many planets across the universe were left in chaos and poverty. The machine mutants stepped in and helped stabilize the galaxy by sharing their technology and resources with struggling worlds, including Imecha. They helped Don Key rise to power and become king in exchange for financial tribute, and now he has failed them. Rildo calmly reminds him that the machine mutants could take away his power and even his planet as easily as they gave it to him. He orders Don Key to retrieve the Dragon Ball no matter what it takes. And terrified, Don Key sends Legic on a new mission: chase the trio through space and recover the Dragon Ball. Legic happily accepts. After all, it gives him another chance to fight Goku again. These changes not only make Imecha a far more meaningful and exciting planet, it also introduces the machine mutants early on as the primary antagonists of this arc, giving the plot of the arc as a whole some structure. It also starts to show the effect the deaths of Frieza and King Cold had on the entire universe and how that in turn is affecting the journey of the trio. This, I think, was another great way to connect Z and GT, making Dragon Ball feel more like one cohesive story. As you may have noticed, there's also going to be more of Legic, as I believe he's a really underrated character that should have appeared more often. Next, we move to planet Monasu, the planet of giants. In original GT, this episode is mostly peaceful and comedic. So, in the remake, let's escalate some things to make the show better. About a month has passed since the trio left Imecha. Unknown to them, Legic's ship, equipped with far superior technology, has already caught up to them and has been secretly tailing them through space. While the trio searches Monasu for the next Dragon Ball, discovering the giants and their culture, Legic waits for the perfect moment. And just after they finally obtain the Dragon Ball, he ambushes them and knocks out an overconfident Trunks in one swift blow. Legic reveals that during the past month, he trained relentlessly using the gravity chamber inside his ship every single day. And now, he is far stronger than he was before. What follows is an intense battle. Even the giants of Monasu become involved as the fight causes chaos across the planet. Goku transforms into a Super Saiyan, but to his surprise, Legic is now stronger than that form. And that is when Goku realizes something important. Because his body is now that of a child, he struggles to control the massive amount of ki inside required to reach higher transformations. His small body simply cannot properly handle Super Saiyan 2. He needs to learn how to regulate this massive ki in this tiny body in order to access his stronger forms. For the first time on this journey, Goku is actually losing. He can't even use instant transmission to escape the battle. So in a desperate moment, Goku forces the transformation for just a second. A brief flash of Super Saiyan 2, and that momentary burst of power blasts Legic away and gives Goku and Pan just enough time to grab Trunks and escape Monasu with the Dragon Ball. But Legic isn't finished. Realizing that Goku has additional stronger transformations, he is even more determined to surpass and defeat him. The next planet the trio visits in GT is Gelbo, and honestly, the original episode is one of the worst in the entire arc. About 90% of the episode is basically a remake of an old OG Dragon Ball story. I'm talking about that whole Zunama plotline. It feels completely unoriginal, and to make things worse, all we get is one episode in between the Zunama arc and this. So yeah, that whole stretch of the story really needed fixing. In my remake, about another month has passed as Goku, Pan and Trunks arrive at planet Gelbo, but before we even get to them, we cut to Legic's ship. Legic receives a video call from General Rildo. Rildo informs him that after his failure on Monasu, he is sending additional support to help recover the Dragon Balls, the Para brothers, and Legic is immediately upset. He explains that their specialty, hypnosis, is not an honorable way to fight. He refuses to accept victory through tricks like that. But Rildo doesn't care about honor. He reminds Legic that failure is not an option. If the Dragon Balls are not recovered, Legic will die, and his planet will suffer the consequences. With no choice left, Legic reluctantly accepts the assistance. Meanwhile, our trio lands near a small village on Gelbo. This time, the entire Zunama plotline is completely removed, and instead, the trio prepares for something they know is coming. After what happened on Monasu, they already suspect that Legic has been chasing them through space, so this time they prepare for a confrontation. Goku and Trunks stay behind near the ship, ready to fight if Legic shows up, and Pan is sent out to search the village for the Dragon Ball. During the month-long journey to Gelbo, the trio actually spent their time training. Legic knocking Trunks out in a single blow back on Monasu really affected him. After spending years running Capsule Corp, he realized that he had become rusty, and he didn't want to be a burden. He wanted to regain his battle spirit, so during the trip, he trained with Goku to get back into fighting shape. Goku, on the other hand, focused mostly on meditation. Since his body is now that of a child, controlling massive amounts of ki has become much harder. So he spent that entire month learning how to regulate his energy better, hoping it would allow him to access higher transformations more consistently. And Pan, not wanting to feel left out, also joined the training sessions with Trunks. And in this version, we can say that Bulma installed a gravity chamber on their ship, giving them the perfect place to train during their journey. Back on Gelbo, Legic's ship finally arrives, but another ship lands with him. Two figures step out, the Para brothers. And in this rewrite slash remake, whatever you want to call it, there is no goofy dance routine, please. Their ability is straight up hypnosis, which makes them far more threatening. Legic tells them clearly that Goku is his opponent and that they are only to assist if he loses. The brothers agree and choose to focus their attention on Trunks. One of them engages Trunks in combat while the other secretly begins building up ki for a hypnosis attack. Meanwhile, Goku and Legic begin their battle. This time, Goku immediately transforms into a Super Saiyan 2. Their clash shakes the entire area as the fight escalates rapidly. Trunks soon realizes that something suspicious is happening behind the scenes. Just as the hypnosis attack is launched, he barely manages to dodge it at the last second. Yes, the attack misses him, but accidentally hits Goku instead. Goku suddenly freezes, now hypnotized. His battle with Legic stops instantly. Legic is furious at the brothers for interfering. Meanwhile, Trunks transforms into a Super Saiyan and completely overwhelms the two brothers. They beg Legic for help, but Legic stays silent. He refuses to intervene. Trunks defeats them both and the hypnosis on Goku breaks. Meanwhile, Pan finally finds the Dragon Ball. The villagers who had fled during the fighting are hiding nearby, and she notices that one of them had been wearing the Dragon Ball as a necklace. She politely asks for it and they give it to her. Excited by her success, Pan begins heading back towards Goku and Trunks, eager to show them that she found the Dragon Ball on her own. But on her way back, she hears a child crying in the wreckage from the battle. Pan rushes over to help and the child suddenly transforms. It was the third Para brother all along. He immediately hypnotizes Pan and takes the Dragon Ball from her. Using telepathy, he informs the other two brothers of what happened and the three of them retreat to their ship and escape with the Dragon Ball. Legic, however, stays behind. Goku asks him if he wants to continue their fight, but Legic refuses. He admits that during their battle, he sensed something. Goku still has much more power hidden within him. Maybe even another transformation beyond Super Saiyan 2. Goku just grins in response. Legic accepts defeat for now, but falls to his knees in frustration. Goku finally asks him why he has been chasing them so desperately. Legic hesitates but ultimately decides to reveal the truth. He explains that King Don Ki is trying to save Imecha from a powerful oppressor who took control of parts of the universe after Frieza's downfall. However, he doesn't know the name of this oppressor. What he does know is that there is a man called General Rildo who works directly for him. Legic explains that they strip Imecha of its wealth, and that is why Don Ki taxes his citizens so heavily. If he refuses, they will destroy the planet. Don Ki would rather let the people see him as a villain than let them know how hopeless their situation really is. At that moment, Pan runs back to them in tears. The hypnosis has worn off and she explains how the Dragon Ball was stolen. Trunks reassures her that it's not her fault. Legic then warns Goku about something. Now that Rildo is gonna find out about his betrayal, he will likely attack Imecha. Legic intends to return home and defend his planet. But Goku has another idea. Since the Para brothers are working for Rildo and the Oppressor, and now they have a Dragon Ball, Goku knows that they'll run into them eventually anyway. And when that happens, Goku assures that he is gonna help free Imecha. And after that, he and Legic can finally have their proper rematch without any high stakes. Legic smiles and thanks him. As the trio leaves Gelbo, Pan begins wondering who this mysterious oppressor really is. And then we finally cut to General Rildo speaking to someone. It is revealed to be the scientist Dr. Mew, the mastermind orchestrating everything. Mew calmly tells Rildo that according to his radar, there is another Dragon Ball located on planet Lude, and based on their current trajectory, the trio will likely arrive there around a month's time from now. Rildo smiles. He already has a plan. Just as Mew calculated, the journey to the planet Lude takes about another month for the trio, and during that time, Pan becomes increasingly frustrated with herself after losing the Dragon Balls to the Para brothers. Determined to prove that she isn't a liability, she trains harder than ever during the trip. When they finally land on Lude, something strange immediately happens. A small robot suddenly springs to life and eats the Dragon Radar. Yes, this is where Giru finally enters the story. I'm introducing Giru much later than the original GT because his role becomes much more meaningful once the machine mutants are properly established for the audience. The trio quickly catches him, but they soon discover that the radar has been integrated into his body, which means that Giru is now the only way they can track the Dragon Balls. Reluctantly, they bring him along. Following Giru's signals leads them to a massive fortress, Cardinal Muchi Muchi's castle. Inside, Muchi Muchi is proudly displaying the Dragon Ball to a crowd of followers, announcing that General Rildo will be pleased. But the celebration ends the moment he notices Goku, Pan and Trunks. Without hesitation, he presses a button. Behind him, a giant robot activates. Lude. The followers immediately bow before it, calling Lude their salvation, their god. Attached to Lude is a large pipe connected to a rocket-like structure with a massive gauge on it. Before anyone can fully understand what's happening, Pan, still frustrated and reckless, charges straight at Muchi Muchi. But at that exact moment, Lude activates. The robot suddenly absorbs Pan along with all the followers. The gauge on the rocket begins to fill up as Lude grows in power. In this remake, there is no Daltaki, thank god, and Lude has no strange gimmicks needed to defeat him. He is simply a massive robot designed to absorb people and convert their life energy into power. Muchi Muchi calmly explains that once the gauge fills up completely, everyone absorbed inside Lude, including Pan, will be converted entirely into energy. The battle begins. Trunks fights Muchi Muchi, who reveals his true whip-like combat form, while Goku confronts the now powered-up Lude. Because Pan was absorbed, Lude has gained a significant boost in energy. The battle is intense, but Super Saiyan 2 Goku eventually manages to overpower and destroy the robot. However, he destroys Lude just a little too late. The gauge fills up completely and the rocket launches into space. Pan is freed from the destroyed robot, but the life energy that was collected has already been sent away. Meanwhile, Trunks continues his fight with Muchi Muchi. During their battle, Trunks demands to know how Muchi could trick his own followers into sacrificing themselves. But Muchi reveals something shocking. The followers were not tricked. They entered Lude willingly. Planet Lude, like many other worlds, had been struggling after the fall of Frieza's empire, and the machine mutants stepped in and provided technology and resources to stabilize the planet. But there was a cost. Planet Lude must constantly send life energy to General Rildo. If they fail, Rildo will destroy their planet. The Lude robot was specifically built to collect that life energy, and that is why the followers called it their salvation. Trunks realizes how similar this planet is to Imecha. It's just that instead of giving Rildo and the Oppressor money, they are sending life energy instead. Muchi Muchi isn't evil, he's just another person trapped under the control of the Oppressor. So Trunks tries to stop the fight, but Muchi Muchi refuses. Unlike Legic, he would never disobey Rildo. In his mind, the people of Lude owe the machine mutants everything. After all, they were saved from the chaos after Frieza's fall. Even if it means living under another oppressive system, a deal is a deal, and Muchi Muchi will honor it. And because of that belief, he continues fighting. So with no other choice left, Trunks is forced to kill him. After the battle, the trio recovers the Dragon Ball. They now have 3 Black Star Dragon Balls, and using Giru's internal radar, they begin heading over to the next one. Another month-long journey begins. During this part of the story, the events of the episode beginning of the end, that's just great, Pan runs away, from GT can mostly stay the same. It takes place on planet Rhodese, and this episode works well because it focuses on Pan's character development. Goku and Trunks struggle with the question of whether they should send Pan back to Earth. After all, she lost a Dragon Ball earlier and was also then absorbed by Lude. This journey was already not safe for a child like her, and it's only getting more and more dangerous. Pan also begins to question whether she is just slowing them down, but by the end she confronts her insecurities and grows stronger because of it. This episode also builds her relationship with Giru, which becomes important later. The adventure on Rhodese ends with Pan successfully obtaining their 4th Dragon Ball with the help of Giru, and Goku and Trunks reconsider sending her back. After this, the trio accidentally crash lands on planet Bihei, where they deal with the giant worm creatures. In this rewrite, this part of the story acts as a breather episode before the arc's climax. It also focuses heavily on Giru. Through their shared struggles on Bihei, the trio slowly begins to trust Giru more and more. And by the end of the episode, they genuinely consider Giru a true member of the team, which makes what happens next much more impactful. After leaving Bihei, Giru suggests that they stop by his home planet since he hasn't been there in years. That planet is M2, the home world of the machine mutants. Up to this point in the story, Don Key and Legic have never really explicitly revealed who is truly behind everything. They only ever mention General Rildo. They never mention the machine mutants, nor reveal that Rildo himself is a machine mutant. All except Muchi Muchi, who, as you already know, has told Trunks about Rildo and the machine mutants. So when Giru brings them to planet M2, Goku and Pan, just like the original, have no idea about what they are walking into. And this is why Giru's betrayal still works perfectly in this version. From this point onward, most of the events on planet M2 can actually play out almost exactly like they do in the original GT. Pan going solo, the fight with the Sigma Force, the fight with Rildo, and Trunks' capture, it all remains the same. The only major change I would make is during the confrontation with General Rildo. When Rildo finally reveals himself, he openly explains the truth about the machine mutants and confirms that he is one of them. And in this remake, we shall make Rildo even stronger, forcing Goku to fight Rildo in Super Saiyan 2 instead of just regular Super Saiyan. Everything else leading up to the eventual appearance of Dr. Mew remains largely the same. Because by this point, the arc finally has something it was missing before. A clear villain, a connected story, and a growing mystery about the true mastermind behind it all. And now we arrive at one of the most confusing parts of GT. Dr. Mew and Baby. In GT, the relationship between these two characters makes almost no sense. Dr. Mew is trying to collect the Dragon Balls so he can turn all life in the universe into machine mutants, while also secretly building Baby. But later we find out that Baby actually created Dr. Mew, and to make it even more confusing, the Dragon Ball plan had nothing to do with Baby at all. It was purely Mew's idea. So the entire villain structure ends up feeling completely backwards and disconnected. So in my remake, the solution is simple. We make the story clearer and more grounded. After finding out about Trunks and Giru's secret infiltration plan and finally confronting Dr. Mew, Mew reveals the truth about everything. Many years ago, Mew discovered a crashed spaceship on a distant planet, and inside the wreckage, he found something extraordinary. A small broken cybernetic body. Even though it was heavily damaged, Mew quickly realized what it had been designed for. This being was created as a parasitic organism, capable of invading other life forms and constantly growing stronger by absorbing their power. A weapon that could theoretically gain power forever. And Mew gave this entity a name. Baby. It was his baby. Mew knew that if he could restore and control such a being, he would have the perfect tool to conquer the universe. So he began building an empire. Using his scientific genius, Mew created an army of machine mutants and established their home on a desolate world which is now known as planet M2. The machine mutants follow Mew because he is their primary creator. After the fall of Frieza, the universe was filled with struggling and unstable planets. Mew used this opportunity perfectly. The machine mutants began helping poor planets by providing technology and resources, but in return, those planets had to provide massive financial tribute and large amounts of life energy. The money funded Mew's research, and the life energy was used to restore Baby. But there was one major problem. Mew knew that Baby would most likely not be loyal to him. Once Baby fully awakened, there'd be no guarantee that he would obey Mew at all. Trying to reprogram Baby directly was too dangerous and could permanently damage the delicate cybernetic body. So Mew came up with a safer solution: the Dragon Balls. If he could obtain them, he could simply wish for Baby to become his obedient servant. But there was a problem. Mew believed that the Dragon Balls had been lost forever after planet Namek was destroyed. Then one day, something unexpected happened. One of Mew's machine mutant surveillance systems detected something glowing as it fell onto planet Imecha. When Mew analyzed the satellite images, he immediately recognized what it was: a Dragon Ball. It was pure luck. But for Mew, it was the opportunity of a lifetime. So he ordered the Imechian king to search for the ball, and that search eventually led to Goku, Pan, and Trunks. From this point onward, the story largely continues the same way as it did in GT. Trunks reveals that he has shut Baby down, so in a desperate attempt to save everything he's been building towards, Dr. Mew activates Baby prematurely. The moment Baby awakens, Goku, Trunks and Pan immediately fired a combined blast at him, but when the smoke clears, Baby is gone. Dr. Mew panics and rushes to his spaceship to escape, but once he is safely on board, something horrifying happens. Baby suddenly bursts out of Dr. Mew's body, killing him instantly. Baby had been hiding inside him. Baby had now finally escaped and was more than ready to carry out his mission. Meanwhile, the trio continued their journey towards the next Dragon Ball, and during their travels, they come across a severely damaged spaceship drifting through space. Inside, they find a young boy who is badly injured and barely alive. They rescue him and bring him onto their ship. Giru sends out a distress signal and a nearby planet responds. That planet is Pital. They head there for medical help, and from this point onwards, the events unfold almost exactly like they do in GT. The boy was already taken over by Baby, and after failing to take control of Trunks and experiencing the power of Saiyan biology, Baby sets his sights on the most important place he can go, Earth. And with that, the Black Star Dragon Ball saga comes to an end. Unlike the original version, this remake leaves the audience with something much stronger. A clear villain, a connected story, and the terrifying beginning of Baby's revenge against the Saiyans, which perfectly sets up the next arc, the Baby Saga. If you guys enjoyed this video, please do leave a like and subscribe and join the Discord. I'll most likely cover the Baby Saga, Super 17 Saga, as well as the Shadow Dragon Saga all in the next video. My name is Thunderbolt, and I will see you all in the next one.